Now to an interesting revelation in the latest UT Texas Tribune poll. A few of them actually, but consider this. In a Republican-controlled state, more than half of Texas voters said Texas needs stricter gun control laws. A little less than a third of Texas voters said that gun control laws should be left as they are. And here's what Texas voters think about separating children from parents who enter the U.S. illegally. More than half of the voters here in this state oppose that practice. A little more than a quarter of them support that. So does any of this predict what might happen in November? Ross Ramsey is a co-founder and executive editor of the Texas Tribune in Austin, as always. Good morning to you, Ross.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. You know, the Trib asked a lot of questions, biggest takeaways for you, and how will campaigns respond after seeing the results of this poll?
You know, I don't know how this plays into October and November, but you can see some of the effects even now when you look at immigration policy. The Trump administration jumped in on this family separations thing in one way. They looked at what voters were saying, and in particular what Republican women were saying, and they backed off their policy. It's clear that voters can change the policies if they want to and if things get noisy enough.
I want to ask you about that power play that Governor Abbott made last week as well, too, telling state agencies that any new rules have to come through him. What's that about?
This is a quiet, big change. The state of Texas has what's called a weak governor constitution. The legislature, when they drew it, didn't trust the governor. They didn't give him a cabinet. They didn't give him a lot of powers. But Greg Abbott is telling the executive agencies now, if you're going to pass a rule or make rules on sitting laws, you have to run them by me. If the agencies go along, that puts a lot more power in the governor's office.
Interesting. Ross, back to you in just a moment. Thank you.